Hey, it's Sam, and I'm doing this video today on Mercury retrograde until April 25th. You can see Mercury's retrograde in the sky in Aries right now. This is a chart for April 3rd. You see Mercury's retrograde, Ashwini Nakshatra. It's going to go back into Pisces, where it's going to join Rahu. It's actually going to station here as we get into April. Later into April, it's going to slow down and station. So I'm going to talk about those things in this video. So again, this is going to be very important because it's Mercury retrograde going from Aries into Pisces. It's kind of like resetting our sense of communication and whatnot. Please like the video. Clicking like helps a lot more than you know. It pushes the video higher in relevant video searches. Also, please leave a nice comment. Comments also help more than you know as it raises the video in searches. Many times with hundreds of likes, there are only a dozen comments and they can be disproportionately negative. So be positive. Let me know if you like this. Even just a few words really helps. So subscribe, ring the bell to get notified of upcoming videos. Yes, I appreciate everyone doing that. And again, this you can also see scrolling at the bottom. It says to click the join button, and you can get the examiner or at the examiner Lemurian level to hear me describe this Mercury retrograde cycle throughout the entire month. Because again, what I'm doing, what I have at that higher member level is a video where I describe this shift the whole month of April. As you could see, this is the April 2024 detailed forecast. Great feedback. Thank you. Amazing analysis. Very much hearing this revealed in real time. So this is where I'm talking about, this Mercury retrograde throughout the whole month, not just right now. You'll hear me talk about it every day as it impacts each day of the month. So again, you could see these are all very active comments right now. 14 hours ago, 19 hours ago, people are really benefiting from that. This Vedic Panchanga week, people are planning their week based on the classical Indian Vedic Panchanga. And if you join at the Oracle 5D level, you get all of the videos. So anyway, you really want to avail yourself of that if you're interested in learning. So here we have this Mercury retrograde, Ashwini Nakshatra. So it's starting in Aries, and then it's going to go back into Pisces. And of course, you see this is happening within the context of the solar eclipse that's happening on April 8th. But when Mercury goes retrograde, it's like resetting our sense of communication, how we gather information, how we communicate and speak. And when it goes retrograde, it's really more than anything an opportunity to reflect on the information, not just talk, but listen. That's a big, important aspect of communicating, because it's not just what you want to say, it's what are people saying to you? What are they communicating back to you? By the way, even things like this, where I have this type of communication, I'm always read these comments to say, what are people communicating back? I can put a bunch of stuff out there, but what are people saying? Right? And so to be successful at anything, it's not just you talking, it's also you listening. So one of the first things to understand about retrograde is it's the internal quality of communication. The external quality is you talking. The internal quality is you listening and gathering. And again, even relative to Mercury in general, this is an important distinction because especially as Mercury starts off in Aries, Aries is ruled by Mars. And Mars and Mercury can look kind of similar because Mars generates a lot of opinions, right? Where this right and wrong, good, bad, and now, of course, I'm going to say something, some opinion, I'm going to say it. And so we have this idea that, okay, Mercury is communicating, so that includes things like opinions. And it does include opinions, but when we're speaking opinions, we're not really using Mercury with a lot of discrimination. It's too fiery. Opinions are really the fiery quality. And it doesn't mean that we can't have opinions, but Mercury is where we're not so locked into our opinions. It's not so black and white. We're not so quick to get to the conclusion, to say, okay, this is the thing that's right. And so one of the big problems with Mercury is when we stop being curious and we stop gathering information, because that's really what Mercury does. Mercury never is the part that never feels like we have learned everything. Even those who know a lot realize what they don't know yet. So they may know a lot and be able to explain what they know really well, but they also know what they don't know. And real intelligence is understanding how much you still need to learn and understanding that it's never going to be finished. Mars, on the other hand, is trying to finish it and say, no, I know it now. I know it. I got it. I figured it out. I'm right. Now, again, it doesn't mean we never know anything. I mean, obviously, you're listening to me. I obviously know stuff, but I also realize how much I don't know. And that's also okay. So effectively and clearly communicating what you do know, for example, and what you're sure of, that's good communication. When we distort it, when we turn it into too much of an opinion, a black and white statement where we're trying to win with our words or coerce, then Mercury's not doing too well, and we're not then we're not effectively communicating. We're trying to, we're too aggressive. Also, when we're too emotional about what we're trying to communicate. And when Mercury goes back into Pisces, he's going to be in that emotional communication style. This is probably the weakest section of Mercury in the sky, is right here, is this Pisces Aries part, because he's debilitated in Pisces, where it's too amorphous, too dreamy, all the details kind of blur together. And then in Aries, it's like now too much certainty, too much opinions, not enough curiosity. So it goes from dream state to I'm absolutely clear, 100% right state. Both of them are a little bit off. And you can see opposite here, where we have Virgo, Libra is probably where Mercury is the strongest, or Taurus, Gemini, either way. But right here, this is probably where Mercury is the least effective. So he's going to be going retrograde here, starting in this place of Aries, where we're reflecting on our opinions, our strong opinions, our sense of right and wrong, good and bad, not sense of right and wrong as far as morality, but as far as ideas, and seeing through your opinions and what you know is right. And he's going to go back into Pisces right after the eclipse. He goes back into Pisces on the 9th. He goes back into Pisces, and then he hangs out in Pisces until, into May, but he'll station and then go direct on April 25th. And again, like I said, in the full monthly forecast, this detailed analysis forecast, I talk about that. And again, when you click join at the Examiner Lemurian level, you can hear me describe the Mercury retrograde cycle throughout the whole month. And again, when you click that at the Lemurian level, that's at the 999 level, but then also at the 5D avatar level, if you want to get all of the videos for all of the members, all of the membership levels, that includes the April 2024 detailed monthly course, also the Vedic week ahead. This was just done. Again, these are just the monthly videos, and then these are classes that the members also get. But again, this is really a good time to examine and to evolve your sense of information gathering. Again, because when Mercury goes retrograde, we're questioning what we already know, what we think we already know. And again, based on this information gathering, this skill, and how well we actually not only speak, but also listen, and how thorough we really are, that shows how good of a communicator we are. And of course, communication is so important in really everything in life. That includes all of our business and, of course, relationships. And, we're all trying to understand what the heck we're doing and getting that story straight in our head. Again, this is another thing that I always say about Mercury to bring it into the realm of truth is that it's really that story in your head. What are you telling yourself about what's happening in your life? That story, that narrative. We use this word narrative all the time now. What is the narrative that's running? And not just in general, but about very specific things. What is the narrative you have around work? What about around relationships? What is the story you tell yourself about that? What is the story you tell yourself about, love, or about, again, career, or your own personality? Oh, this is who I am. This is why I don't, I do readings all the time, and I read people's stories. And I listen to I see the stories that they have, the narrative, and then I also see the chart. And I also have to then try to say, okay, here's why you see the story this way. And here's how this reading or whatever can help you see beyond just your story, beyond just the narrative that's running. And that story in our head is in many ways, sort of the biggest thing that we have is that story running in our head. It's so ubiquitous. It's running, and it's always influencing what we are thinking about who we are, right? That story in our head is always saying, or that story about what we think is possible. Well, this is that, or this isn't worth it, or this is good, this is bad. I don't want to spend money on this. I don't want to do that. This isn't worth it. This is that, again, it's always these ideas. And so again, Mercury starting in Aries, where we have where our ideas can often show up as opinions. And then it goes retrograde, where now we're going to kind of reflect on, like, what is that story all about? And how am I communicating, maybe more through opinions than through curiosity and being open. Then when he goes back into Pisces, April 9th, and he's going to go back into around 21 degrees and then station, he'll stop literally right on Rahu. Mercury is going to station at about 22 and stop at about 21 degrees. And then he turns direct, but he's going to go back into almost his deepest debilitation point and then stop right on Rahu. So again, when we get to like the 18th, 19th, 20th, through like the 25th, that last week of Mercury retrograde in Pisces, he stations and stops right on Rahu. And again, I talk about that in the detailed forecast. Again, the detailed monthly forecast. Again, as you can see, people are like, amazing analysis, enjoyed hearing it revealed in real time. In real time, because they're watching me discover the month, because I go through the month and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, you see, and you're tracking it with me, and I go through it. So again, this is going to be a big shift, obviously, when he goes there, and then he's going to cross the sun, because the sun is going to also move. So when he goes back into Pisces, again, this is going to be a time that's very much reflective. And it can also feel sort of, I wouldn't say powerless, but the reason Mercury is debilitated in Pisces, as I said, it's because where all the details sort of blur together. They all sort of blur together, right? When Mercury's exalted over here in Virgo, in his exaltation sign. His exaltation sign is Virgo. And that sign of Virgo, that exaltation sign, is where there's precision, there's accuracy, there's a very structured, practical way. Every little detail goes right where it's supposed to go. Every detail goes exactly where it's supposed to go. This is why Mercury is exalted in Virgo. Right? And then in Libra, again, this is why I said here in Pisces and Aries, it's kind of opposite this place where it's very effective. Mercury is very effective here. And I think this is probably more effective because it goes from his exaltation point where everything is very accurate, and correct in Virgo. And then he moves into Libra, which is about other people, sharing those details, sharing that story. Because again, when all we want is an accurate story. We want the story to be correct. And you want the story to be correct. You want people to give you the correct story. I mean, think of how bad it is when someone lies to you. Or like when you get caught in a lie, when you are distorting things or exaggerating things. So again, when Mercury is up here in Pisces and Aries, and when Mercury is not doing well, we can lie and distort things. And again, when someone has a powerful Mercury, you can see how badly other people communicate, even if they're not intentionally lying. They're confused. So they say things without realizing that they're not being honest. They're not being honest with themselves. They don't even really know they're not being honest. And then they lose credibility. Right? And when Mercury's powerful, we'll be honest. And might be honest to a fault. It seems like it's to a fault to some people. If you got a powerful Mercury, it's not a fault. It's like, well, it is the truth. If you don't want the truth, don't ask me. Right? Because at least you're not going to hear me lie. I say me because I actually have a strong Mercury, but again, it doesn't mean I'm going to be inhumane about it. But again, so Mercury's powerful over here in Virgo, where we get the details correct, and then we share them with the other person, right? And we would much rather, and in a compassionate, kind way, because there's nothing, Mercury is actually that Mercury part of you is very cooperative. And once there's understanding of something, the last thing the Mercury wants to do, that Mercury part of you wants to do, is create a problem or argue. In fact, it's very argument averse. This is why I'm saying you got to understand this difference between Mars and Mercury, especially. Mercury does not want to argue. Mercury is the part that's like, again, too intelligent to want to argue. So again, Mars is confrontational. Like now people can use their Mercury in a difficult way and use it to win arguments and stuff. Absolutely. But the Mercury part isn't the part that wants to argue. Right? So that's the Mercury in Aries. In the Pisces part, it's more the confusion. And again, Mercury and Aries would be more confrontational. Mercury and Pisces might be that sort of confusing, even the lying part. And it's not lying because often it's not even because it's intentional. It's just confusion. Most people don't lie because they have moral failures. Most people lie because they're first lying to themselves and they're confused. They don't know what they're saying. And they're hurting themselves by not being honest first with themselves. And then they say it, they share it with you, and then they hurt their credibility with you, and you just feel bad I just feel bad for them, so to speak. They're the people that I've known, that I've cared about, and you see how they continue to lie to themselves. They won't even be honest when they're caught in the lie, so to speak. And they lose credibility, lose integrity, and even when you try to tell them, well, but here's why I don't trust you, because you're not honest, you're not telling the truth. Instead of going, yeah, you're right, then they'll get maybe defensive and try to defend themselves. Well, oh, sure, now it's just me, or I don't know, they just can't hear it, rather than, again, maybe just owning up to it and then doing better or whatever. So again, usually the problems with Mercury as they lead on a personal level have to do with this kind of lack of integrity, lack of credibility that comes from a confusing story, and then poor communication, not being honest with themselves, deflecting, passive aggression, all that's kind of terrible communication that many people have. Most people do not communicate very well. They don't communicate the truth. They're not honest. It's a very simple thing. Again, when I say they're not honest, it doesn't mean they're intentionally liars or pathological liars. We want to turn everything into some big pathology. It's not. It's just ignorance, confusion, just like people aren't disciplined or people aren't whatever. When people aren't disciplined, that's like a failing of Mars. It's not a moral failure. It's hard to be disciplined. It's hard to have that strength and that faculty. Well, Mercury is that thing. It's hard to first be clear about what's really happening. rather than lie to ourselves and screw up and mess up the story so badly. And again, if we're getting the story badly in our head, of course we're going to convey it to someone else in a very messy, sticky, ugly way. And then the people who and then they hear it through their distorted Mercury, right? For example. So again, Mercury is very important in all of this relative to how we interact with each other. And so this Mercury retrograde cycle from Aries back into Pisces, then hanging out, and then it goes forward again into, it'll wind up going back into Aries in May. Again, big cycle here with this. And by the way, this was a big part of my 2024 forecast as well. I talked about these retrograde cycles from Aries into Pisces. So these are big situations happening right now. And again, as you see below here the whole time, join. If you click the join button and you subscribe at the Lemurian level, you can hear me describe that throughout the month. Again, these are the, you just go here. This is Investigator. Then this is the Lemurian level, Visionary level, Oracle 5D level. That's where you get all the videos. And as you can see, these are the videos, even just these last few days. This is just this week. This was on Sunday. This was also on Sunday. These were some videos last week on eclipses, popes, deep dives at the Oracle level. Again, the Oracles get all of these. This is the Oracle level page. So again, I really put this together. People are really loving it. As you can see, all the great feedback here. Again, this is just from the last few days, 1 hour ago, 3 hours ago, 6 hours ago, people giving their feedback on all of these great case studies. And so I'm really glad to be able to do this, to first share this publicly and then to share these deeper dive videos with everyone. So again, I'm glad to see everybody here. And thanks a lot. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel.